I refused to let my mother-in-law wear a white dress to my wedding. She threw a tantrum and convinced my fiancé to postpone our marriage unless I apologize. I, 28F, have been with my fiancé Jake, 30M, for 5 years, and we've been engaged for the last 8 months. Everything was going great until last week when my soon-to-be mother-in-law, Diane, 52F, decided to unleash chaos on our wedding plans. But to really understand this situation, I need to take you back to the beginning. Jake and I met at a mutual friend's barbecue 5 years ago. It was one of those instant connections. We talked for hours, forgetting about everyone else at the party. He was funny, kind, and ambitious, working as a software engineer for a startup. I was, and still am, a pediatric nurse, and we bonded over our shared desire to help others. Our relationship progressed quickly. Within 6 months, we were practically living together, and after a year, we made it official by moving into a cozy apartment downtown. Everything seemed perfect, except for one small cloud on our horizon, Diane. For context, Diane has always been difficult. She's the type of woman who needs to be the center of attention at all times. When Jake and I first started dating, she would constantly try to set him up with other women, claiming she was just joking. She's made passive-aggressive comments about my appearance, my career, and even my family background. I still remember the first time I met her. Jake had been nervous about introducing us, which should have been my first red flag. We went to his parents' house for dinner, and Diane answered the door with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Oh, so you're the nurse," she said, looking me up and down. I always pictured Jake with someone more ambitious. But I suppose someone has to do those jobs, right? I was stunned into silence, but Jake quickly jumped in. "Mom, being a nurse is incredibly ambitious. Sarah works harder than anyone I know." That set the tone for our relationship. Every interaction was filled with backhanded compliments and subtle digs. When Jake and I moved in together, Diane threw a fit, claiming we were living in sin and that I was trying to steal her baby boy away. Never mind the fact that she and Jake's dad had lived together before marriage. Apparently, the rules were different for us. Despite all this, Jake always defended me. He'd call out his mother's behavior, leading to tearful arguments where Diane would claim we were ganging up on her. It was exhausting, but I loved Jake, and I thought we could handle anything together. When Jake proposed, it was magical. He took me to the top of our favorite hiking trail at sunset, got down on one knee, and presented me with a beautiful ring that had belonged to his grandmother. I was over the moon, until we called his parents to share the news. Diane's first words were, "Oh, you're using Grandma's ring?" I always thought that would go to someone in the family. Jake, bless him, immediately shot back, "Sarah is family, Mom." I thought things would get better as we started planning the wedding. I was wrong. So wrong. Every decision became a battle. Diane hated the venue we chose, "It's so impersonal," criticized our choice of colors, navy and blush. How dreadfully modern, and even tried to invite guests without consulting us. When we put our foot down on the guest list, she cried to Jake about how we were excluding her from the planning process. But all of that pales in comparison to what happened last week. We had a family dinner to discuss some final wedding details. The wedding is, or was, supposed to be in 3 weeks. As we were going over the schedule, Diane casually mentioned that she had found the perfect dress for the occasion. She pulled out her phone to show us a picture, and I swear my heart stopped. It was a full-length, white lace gown. A wedding dress in all but name. I must have visibly reacted because Jake asked if everything was okay. I took a deep breath and said as calmly as I could, "Diane, I'm sorry, but that dress is not appropriate for a wedding guest. It's white, and it looks too bridal. I'm sure we can find you something equally beautiful in a different color." The room went silent. Diane's face turned an alarming shade of red, and then she exploded. "How dare you? I've been planning this outfit for months. Do you think anyone would mistake me for the bride? I'm old enough to be your mother." I was stunned. "It's not about age, Diane. It's about respect. White is traditionally reserved for the bride." She turned to Jake, tears welling up in her eyes. "Jake, honey, are you going to let her talk to me like this? After everything I've done for this wedding?" Now, let me be clear. Diane has done absolutely nothing for this wedding except complain about every decision we've made. But Jake, bless his conflict-avoidant heart, tried to placate her. "Mom, I'm sure we can work something out. Maybe if the dress was a different color?" Diane wailed, "This is the only dress that fits me perfectly. I can't possibly find another one in time." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Diane, you have 3 weeks. That's plenty of time to find a suitable dress in a different color." She stood up, knocking her chair over in the process. "I will not be dictated to by some controlling little girl who thinks she can come into this family and change everything." Jake's father, who had been silent until now, tried to intervene. "Diane, honey, maybe we should." But Diane was on a roll. She pointed at me, her finger shaking with rage. You've been trying to turn my son against me from day one. Well, I won't stand for it anymore. If I can't wear this dress, then I won't come to the wedding at all." I was about to say fine by me when Jake spoke up. "Mom, please, don't say that. We want you there." And then, to my utter disbelief, he turned to me with pleading eyes. "Babe, can't we just let her wear the dress? It's just one day, and it would mean so much to her." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Jake, are you serious right now? You want your mother to wear a white gown to our wedding?" He ran his hands through his hair, clearly stressed. "I just don't want to cause any more drama. Can't we compromise?" I stood up, feeling like I was in some bizarre alternate reality. Compromise? Jake, wearing white to someone else's wedding isn't a matter of compromise. It's a matter of basic etiquette and respect. Diane saw her opening and pounced. "See how unreasonable she's being, Jake? Is this really the woman you want to spend your life with? Someone who can't even make a small concession for your mother's happiness?" I looked at Jake, waiting for him to defend me, to stand up to his mother. But he just sat there, looking torn and miserable. That's when I knew I had to leave before I said something I might regret. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. "I need some air. Jake, call me when you figured out where your priorities lie." I spent the next few hours driving around, trying to process what had just happened. I thought about all the times Jake had stood up for me in the past, all the progress we'd made in dealing with his mother. Had it all been an illusion? Was I fooling myself into thinking we could have a healthy relationship with Diane in our lives? When I finally returned home, Jake was waiting for me. I hoped he had come to his senses, but the conversation that followed left me questioning everything about our relationship. Jake started with, "I've been thinking, and I think we need to postpone the wedding." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "Postpone? Why?" He sighed heavily. "This whole situation with my mom. It's just too much stress right now. I think we need time to sort things out, to find a way to make everyone happy." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Make everyone happy? "Jake, your mother is trying to wear a white dress to our wedding. There's no compromise here." He ran his hands through his hair again, a nervous habit of his. I know. But she's my mom, you know? I can't have her not be there. And if we postpone, maybe she'll have time to find a different dress, or maybe you two can work things out." I felt a cold anger settling in my chest. Work things out? Jake, I haven't done anything wrong. I'm not the one who needs to apologize or change. He looked at me with those pleading eyes again. "Can't you just, I don't know, apologize for how you reacted? Even if you don't mean it? Just to smooth things over?" And that's when I lost it. Apologize? Are you kidding me right now? Your mother is trying to upstage me at my own wedding, and you want me to apologize to her? No. Absolutely not. I won't do it. Jake's face hardened. "Then I don't think we should get married right now. Not until we can figure this out." I felt like the ground was crumbling beneath my feet. "So that's it? You're choosing your mother's ridiculous demands over our relationship?" He stood up, frustration evident in every line of his body. "I'm not choosing anyone. I'm just trying to find a way to make this work for everyone." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Jake, listen to yourself. Your mother is manipulating you, manipulating us. Can't you see that?" But he just shook his head. "You don't understand. Family is everything to me. I can't just cut her out or ignore her feelings." "And what about my feelings?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "What about our family, the one we're supposed to be starting together?" He didn't have an answer for that. We stood there in silence for what felt like an eternity before I finally spoke again. I think you should leave. Take some time to really think about what you want and where your priorities lie. Because right now, it doesn't feel like I'm one of them. Jake left without another word, and I spent the night crying and wondering how everything had fallen apart so quickly. It's been 5 days since then. 5 days of unanswered texts and calls. 5 days of wondering if my entire relationship was built on a foundation of sand. 5 days of fielding concerned calls from friends and family who don't understand why our wedding has been suddenly postponed. I've been staying with my sister, unable to face our empty apartment. Yesterday, I got a text from Jake, "I'm sorry for everything. Can we talk?" I haven't responded yet. Part of me wants to hear him out, to see if he's finally come to his senses. But another part of me, a growing part, wonders if this is the wake-up call I needed. If this is the universe's way of showing me what life with Jake and his family would really be like. I keep thinking about all the red flags I've ignored over the years. The way Jake would sometimes give in to his mother's demands just to keep the peace. The times he'd ask me to let things go because that's just how she is. I thought we were a team, facing his difficult mother together. But when it really mattered, when I needed him most, he couldn't stand up to her. And it's not just about the dress. It's about respect, boundaries, and what our future might look like. If we have children, will Diane try to control how we raise them? Will every holiday be a battle? Will I always be the bad guy in her eyes, the woman who stole her precious son? I love Jake. I really do. But I'm starting to wonder if love is enough. Can we build a life together if he can't set boundaries with his mother? Can I trust him to have my back when it really matters? So here I am, Reddit, pouring my heart out to strangers on the internet because I don't know what else to do. Am I crazy for standing my ground on this? Should I have just let Diane wear the damn dress to keep the peace? Or is this whole situation a giant red flag that I've been ignoring for too long? I keep thinking about that saying, it's easier to dump a mama's boy than to divorce a mama's boy, and both of those are easier than trying to change a mama's boy. I never thought I'd be in this position, but here I am. What do I do now? Do I hear Jake out? Do I try to salvage this relationship? Or do I cut my losses and move on, grateful that I discovered this fatal flaw before we actually got married? Any advice would be appreciated. I feel lost, heartbroken, and more than a little angry. How did a simple thing like a white dress turn into this nightmare? Edit 1. Wow, I didn't expect this to blow up like it did. Thank you all for your support and advice. I've read every comment, even if I haven't had the chance to reply to them all, and it's given me a lot to think about. To address some common questions/comments. 1. Yes, I've tried talking to Jake about his mother's behavior before. He usually acknowledges that she can be difficult but always says, that's just how she is or she means well. We've had countless conversations about setting boundaries, but it always seems to fall apart when push comes to shove. 2. No, Diane has never been officially diagnosed with any personality disorders, but many of you have pointed out that her behavior shows signs of narcissism. I'll be looking into resources about dealing with narcissistic family members. It's scary how much of what I'm reading resonates with my experiences with her. 3. Jake and I have discussed couples counseling in the past, but we never followed through. In light of recent events, I think it's going to be a non-negotiable if we have any chance of moving forward. I realize now that we should have done this years ago. 4. To those asking about my ring, I still have it. I'm not ready to make any permanent decisions yet, but I'm also not wearing it at the moment. Every time I look at it, I'm reminded of this mess, and it hurts too much. 5. Several people have asked about Jake's father's role in all this. He's a nice man, but he's very passive and tends to let Diane run the show. I think years of keeping the peace have worn him down. In a way, I see Jake heading down the same path, and it terrifies me. 6. For those suggesting I just elope or have a small wedding without Diane, while I appreciate the suggestion, I don't think that addresses the real issue here. This isn't just about the wedding anymore. It's about how Jake and I will handle his mother's interference for the rest of our lives. 7. To the people telling me to run and never look back, I hear you. I really do. But 5 years of love and memories aren't easy to walk away from. I'm trying to approach this with a clear head, which is why I haven't responded to Jake's text yet. I'm going to take a few days to really think about what I want and what I'm willing to accept in this relationship. I'll update when I have more news. Again, thank you all for your support. It means more than you know. Edit 2. It's been a week since my last update, and a lot has happened. I finally agreed to meet Jake in person. We met at a neutral location, a quiet coffee shop we both like. The conversation was intense, emotional, but also, in many ways, enlightening. Jake started by apologizing again, more sincerely and thoroughly than he ever has before. He acknowledged that he's been enabling his mother's behavior for years and that it wasn't fair to me or to our relationship. He talked about his childhood, about how his mother's emotional manipulation has been a constant in his life, and how he's always tried to keep the peace to avoid conflict. He told me about things I never knew, how Diane would threaten to hurt herself when she didn't get her way, how she'd play him and his sister against each other, how she'd guilt-trip him constantly about not loving her enough. It was heartbreaking to hear, and it helped me understand why Jake is so conflict-avoidant when it comes to her. But then he said something that really hit me. I realized that in trying to keep everyone happy, I was making the person I love most miserable. And that's not the kind of man, or husband, I want to be. He told me about his first therapy session, how eye-opening it was to talk about his family dynamics with a professional. He's committed to continuing therapy, both individual and couples counseling if I'm willing. He said he set firm boundaries with Diane, telling her that if she can't respect me and our relationship, she won't be a part of our lives. He's even considering going low contact with her for a while to focus on our relationship and his personal growth. After a lot of soul searching, I've decided to give our relationship another chance, with conditions. 1. We're postponing the wedding indefinitely until we're both ready. 2. We're starting couples counseling immediately. 3. Jake will continue his individual therapy. 4. We're taking a 3-month break from contact with Diane. 5. Any future contact with Diane will be on our terms, with clear boundaries. 6. We're moving to a new apartment, away from his parents' influence. I know it won't be easy, but I believe our relationship is worth fighting for. If things don't improve, I know I'll have the strength to walk away. Thank you all for your support during this difficult time. I'll update if there are any major changes.